Welcome to Go a Little Mad, a horror movie podcast. My name is Jason. I love scary movies and cough syrup.
I'm Brianna, and I don't like either. And this week we watched not something scary. We watched Hocus Pocus 2.
This one was for Brianna, 100%.
It was, and I'm thrilled. So I guess we'll just kind of talk about what we thought initially.
Absolutely. And right up top, let me just apologize for this delicious baritone I'm giving you right now. If you listened to last week's episode, you may be aware that Brianna was sick.
And still is a little bit.
And still is a little bit. And as tends to happen, I got sick from her. It was a nice little gift from her to me. So
You're welcome.
I'm going to be breathing into the mic a lot this week because breathing is difficult. So, but I am not giving up on this podcast.
So I'll say, I know maybe it's an unpopular opinion based on what I've seen so far, but I loved this.
Of course you did. Of course you love this.
I thought it was a well-done sequel that respected and paid homage to the original. With that in mind, although it was cheesy and made for children, it still has its original fan base in mind.
I think pays homage to undersells it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think this movie falls into the trap that a lot of either reboots or 25-year later sequels fall into, but to honestly a much greater degree than I've seen before. But I also do tend to avoid movies that fall in that category. So this was a very divisive film in our household, and I'm not sure our relationship will survive it.
Well, I think the thing to keep in mind is we didn't begin with a serious movie, so we're not going to get a serious movie. It wasn't done to obviously everything's done to make money, but it wasn't done as we got to make sequels of everything. This was done because we have been begging them to do this for 10 years now. So this was a gift.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you on that last part. This was absolutely done because everything from the 90s is being remade right now. Everything from our childhood is being recreated and rebooted and given a sequel and updated and whatnot right now. And I'm not saying that inherently makes it bad, but this is definitely a larger part of that trend, even if people were asking for it, unlike, the upcoming Never-Ending Story remake that absolutely nobody wants. This is still, to me, in my eyes, of the same vein. It's just that thing where it's, I'm not going to get into it. I've got things to say about it later. I'll hold it in.
So let's then talk about the movie credits. It was written by Jan, I can't read my own writing, D'Angelo.
I think it was Jen.
Okay, probably. Directed by Anne Fletcher. Starring, we have a big cast here.
I think it was Jan Fletcher. No, I'm kidding.
Starring Bette Midler as Winifred Sanderson, Sarah Jessica Parker as Sarah Sanderson, Kathy Najimy as Mary Sanderson, Whitney Peake as Becca, Belissa Escobedo as Izzy, Lilia Buckingham as Cassie, Sam Richardson as Gilbert, and Tony Hale as Reverend Trask and Mayor Trask.
Tony Hale's doing some heavy lifting. I love him, and he is probably my favorite part of this movie.
I really liked him in it, too. He was perfect. The summary. Thanks to a magic shop owner who learned how to make a new black flame candle, the Sanderson sisters have returned to take down Salem once more. Only this time, they'll have to beat out not just savvy teenagers, but magical ones.
Ooh, magical teenagers.
Ooh.
Everybody's favorite.
Now, what did you find, or actually, what was the Rotten Tomato score?
This movie, it just came out about a week before we watched it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is fluctuating all the time. This isn't going to be as steady a score. So I wrote this down yesterday. It might even be changed now, and will almost certainly be changed by the time you listen to it. But where it stands is 60% critic, 55% audiences.
Oh, yikes. Wait, that's not great, right?
No. I mean, it is though, because again, Rotten Tomatoes, it's not an A through F score. That's not a 60 out of 100. That means 60% of critics would recommend it, and 55% of the audience. So that's still more people that liked it than disliked it. So that's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I guess. Okay, and what fun little facts did you find? What are your flesh wounds?
So obviously, this movie just came out. There aren't a ton of behind-the-scenes tidbits or fun facts, but I got a few things for you. The first is that in the beginning of the movie, there is an incident with the teenage witches and some spiders.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. Fun fact, those spiders are golden silk orb weavers, which you can tell because of their body and the spots and stripes that they have. They're frighteningly large. Their torsos average about 3 inches long, just the torso.
Hate it.
They're completely harmless to humans. They're not venomous, and they're actually not even capable of piercing human skin with a bite. So this spider is creepy, and you don't want it anywhere near you. But if it were near you, the damage would be purely psychological.
Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah, no physical damage. The second thing is, well, actually, so I've got 2 other little tidbits here, and they're more Hocus Pocus 1 related, because why not, right?
Sure, let's do it.
Sarah Jessica Parker, in researching her family genealogy for a 2004 television series, found that one of her ancestors was accused during the witch trials.
The Salem witch trials?
Yes.
Whoa.
Her name was Esther Elwell. She was from Gloucester, or what would now be Gloucester.
Yep.
And her and 2 others were accused of killing a neighbor through magical, nefarious means.
Uh-huh.
Nothing really ended up coming of it because it was actually the very end of the witch trials. So they kind of got away with it. Well, they didn't get away with anything. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But they weren't, killed in any horrific ways or anything like that, thankfully, for Sarah Jessica Parker.
Right. They were just like tired of killing people for nothing.
Yeah.
They were like, wow, we did too much.
Yeah. They were just, they were drowning in blood. Last Podcast on the Left just very recently did a great Salem Witch Trials series. Can't recommend that enough. And so the third thing here was, according to a 2014 interview with Variety, Leonardo DiCaprio said that he was offered, quote, more money than I ever dreamed of, end quote, to play Hocus Pocus leading man Max Dennison.
Shut up.
Yes, but he turned it down because he was holding out for a role that he had not yet auditioned for even in What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
I was just going to say, can I guess it? Because I knew it was going to be that.
I'm sorry. He ended up getting the part, obviously, and that part did get him his first Oscar nomination.
Fine.
Though infamously not a win.
Yeah.
But either way, I think you could probably say he made the right choice there.
I don't know. Who has seen What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Literally everybody.
Times. I haven't seen it, and I surely haven't seen it a repeated amount of times.
That's because you have this weird obsession with avoiding every movie that's like a good heavy movie. You just refuse to watch anything that's like a good movie from the 90s.
You know what I also will say is that I tell people I love Leonardo DiCaprio, but I've pretty much only seen Titanic.
It's disgusting.
I think I read a book,
here's the thing,
a biography about him even in my youth.
Does he get Titanic coming off Hocus Pocus? Absolutely not. He gets it coming off an Oscar nomination for What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Fine.
Can you picture James Cameron watching Hocus Pocus? I mean, like, get me that kid.
Maybe,
right
though.
Absolutely not. But yeah, that's what I got.
Okay, those were fun. I did not know the Leonardo DiCaprio thing, and that blew my mind.
Well, you're not even a real Leonardo DiCaprio fan, though. You
No,
only like
I
Titanic.
just read a biography about him, but I'm not a fan. I just thought he was hot.
You only like Titanic.
Yeah.
You've never seen anything
I
else
actually
he's been in.
don't even like to watch Titanic because I cry so much.
We are going to watch Shutter Island for this podcast at some point.
Yeah, I'm actually excited for that.
It's a fantastic movie.
Okay, so touch points.
This movie just came out. The end.
Yeah, so I don't have touch points for this movie, obviously, but the original is one of my favorite movies probably ever. I don't have like a singular favorite movie. I'm really bad about having favorites. It's probably some kind of millennial ADHD thing. I don't know. But I was obsessed with the original, probably because I was just obsessed with witches in general when I was younger and still now, honestly. I also love that it's a New England film. It plays, every year on like the Disney Channel or now Freeform, I think, whatever. But when I was young, my cousin Sage, her birthday is October 19th. So she would always have a birthday party like in the hot Halloween season. And I remember we were at her birthday party and she wanted to like go make a movie because she would like make videos and stuff with her friends all the time. But Hocus Pocus was on, and I was like, well, can't we watch Hocus Pocus instead? And it became like this whole thing. Even my aunt came out and was like, well, can we do both? It was a whole drama thing. So sorry, Sage, that I ruined your birthday party. You probably don't remember.
She absolutely remembers.
No, I bet she doesn't.
You guys talked about this. I've heard you guys talk about this. Oh,
we did?
Yes.
Oh.
The last time I saw them at
right.
your sister's house.
Okay, so she does remember.
Of course she remembers. You ruined her birthday.
But anyway, that's how much I love this film. I was not of the fan base begging for a sequel. I didn't think they could do it. I didn't see why. The ending was the ending. The witches were gone. There's absolutely no way in my brain that they could make them come back and have it make sense. Me personally, I was wrong. I feel like I'm eating my words because I actually really like the story and how they were brought back. I think it all very much makes sense.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you there.
You don't think it even makes sense?
Well, do they ever even explain how they come back again?
Yes.
How?
I guess not officially, but the making of either way, the black flame candle makes them come back. Right. So why can't it make it come back? Why can't it make them come back again?
I guess.
It's really just a lot of like playing with the rules of magic. And like, really, are there rules of magic? Are there rules?
Again, I think you're just looking too deeply into this. Like, nobody's giving it that much thought over there. Like that, but that was kind of a problem for me, where it's just sort of like, oh yeah, lighting another black flame candle will bring them back. Of course it will. Duh. I don't care for that. But so me, for my touch point, I enjoyed the original when I was a kid. I actually, what is her name? Danny, the actress who plays Danny.
Oh, Thora Birch.
Thora Birch, one of my first young life crushes.
Oh.
Yeah, because, I mean, not in this movie because she was a literal child and I was a literal child. But later on, she was in Ghost World.
Oh.
And I was like, I thought she was so cute. So that's what I always associate this movie with, or the original with anyway. And I'd seen the original, a few times since. I think we watched it together.
We have.
At least once a Halloween since we started dating. Mm-hmm. And, I think everyone kind of around our age range that's like a white girl from New England is obsessed with it. So
for sure.
Other girls that I was interested in had made me watch it as well.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
I didn't need the sequel. I didn't need, the reboot or anything. I just want to say that up top. I'm not one of those people who is, you're stupid for liking pumpkin spice. Like, no, enjoy what you enjoy. My displeasure with this movie or other movies like it, or any movie at all really, has nothing to do with judgment on the people that do enjoy it. So I do, I apologize to you if any of my comments come across in a harmful way to you. We're kind of in this zone where everything from our childhoods is being recreated.
Yeah.
And I fucking hate it. And again, I'll get into why later. I won't, go on a little soapbox, but I just wanted to give a little disclaimer up top because I don't want to come off as one of those people who's like, ugh, everybody loves pumpkin spice. They're so basic and stupid. Because that's not it. That's not it for me. And if you enjoy this movie, I love that for you. I love that journey for you. So no judgment intended.
A little bit of a flesh wound for you regarding your Thora Birch crush. She was going to be in this.
Oh, I know. We talked about it.
Did we? I forgot.
No, me and Thora. You guys can't hear Brianna laugh at that joke because she had a coughing fit.
Yeah, I did laugh.
But she laughed very hard. But she's going to have to edit out the coughing fit. Yeah.
Yes. We talked about it, but I'm going to put it to the masses here. She was going to be cast as a teacher, possibly. But by the time they got to filming, she had started a role in something else. So she didn't get to be in it. I guess they didn't even ask the rest of the cast. For some reason, they asked her and no one else.
I mean, what's Max doing these days?
Promotion for the original Hocus Pocus. He was actually just in Salem or will be in Salem. I think he's going to be in Salem the Friday before we're there, like the 21st. Remember I sent you that link? He's going to be doing some events speaking about Hocus Pocus, the original. But he came out and said he was not asked. He was not approached for it. And he would have loved it, of course, if he had been. But Wasn't.
That's weird that nobody even asked him.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he's problematic or something.
I don't know why they didn't just have all of them come in as a cameo.
Have you checked his Twitter? Does he have a racist Twitter?
No, I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
But I think the girl's name is Vanessa Shaw.
Vanessa Shaw, yes.
I don't know why they didn't just have all of them play like a very poignant cameo.
Yeah, I mean, or they could have just like thrown them in the background, like
that's
hanging
what I
out
mean,
together.
like an obvious
yeah
background shot of them or something, you know?
And nobody, not once in this entire movie, used the word yabos.
Wow, that's egregious.
It really is. I mean, for all the nods back to the original movie, and God, there are so many.
Endless.
For all of those, they didn't even include yabos. That's ridiculous.
Wow. All right, well, let's get into it so we can hear what they did include. We begin with the traditional Disney castle, but it turns a little spooky with a dash of the classic Hocus Pocus score. There's a giant black bird with specks of orange and red that we're following over as it flies over water and woods. And it ends at Salem Plantation in 1653. Looking at the plantation, I was like, this looks smaller than I thought it would be, like, especially compared to the original, which the original beginning of Hocus Pocus starts in 1693. So we're seeing 40 years earlier than what we saw before. And the plantation is the same. It's just smaller with like less farmland. And I feel like in 40 years we would have seen, I don't know, like more of a change. But whatever. In the original, they used the Salem Plantation grounds. So there is an actual place, almost like Plymouth Plantation, which we're getting very New England here, but Plymouth Rock, where the Puritans landed, right? That's what they were, the Puritans?
Yeah, sure.
They landed in 1620 at Plymouth Rock, which is essentially in Plymouth, Massachusetts, near Cape Cod.
And for those of you who haven't seen it, Plymouth Rock is like literally, it's the size of your head. It's tiny. It's not even like a rock.
Yeah, it's not like the Liberty Bell or something.
Like you hear Plymouth Rock and you picture this giant piece of stone like jutting out of the ground. Like they pull their boat up onto the shore right next to it and they're like, this majestic rock will be our home.
Yeah.
It's like a fucking stone.
Right.
You could pick it up and throw it.
But anyway,
ridiculous.
they have this whole plantation that you can go to visit. It's, I think, big and whatever. They have a Salem version of that on a smaller scale, I think, in actual Salem.
Except this was filmed in Rhode Island.
Right. So that's why it looks different, because this was filmed in a different location. So let's talk about the filming locations. Not filmed in Salem, which the first one was, in part, filmed.
That's how I feel about that.
Agreed. Hate it. Confused. Makes no sense. But also Hollywood lots in the original. This one, again, was filmed in Rhode Island. The 1600s set was built on Chase Farm Park in Lincoln, Rhode Island. So it was built, which explains why it was smaller, because they're not going to build. I mean, they could. It's freaking Disney, but they didn't build very much. Other scenes were shot in Providence. The Scare Fest, which we spend a lot of time in later, was filmed in Washington Square in Newport, which is one of my favorite places. And the Witch's Cottage / Magic Shop was also built and located in Newport. According to an article from Decider, it was originally set to film in Salem because duh. That's not what the article says. That's what I say. But that was with the original director, Adam Shankman. When that changed to Anne Fletcher in April 2021, she went with Rhode Island. And according to the film's cinematographer, Elliot Davis, he says, quote, "The director loves Providence. She shot here a couple times. And Disney loves the city."
So I just, again, want to revisit that conversation we just had about this not being like a shameless cash grab.
Yeah.
That is a cash grab decision right there.
Yeah.
Because it is 100% cheaper to shoot in Rhode Island than it is in Salem.
Yeah.
And that's, like, this is Hocus Pocus too. You're not going to shoot in Salem.
Right.
Vanessa Shaw's house, Allison, that's her name, right?
Yeah.
Allison's house is iconic.
Right.
You point it out to me every time we go to Salem. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
Yep.
We're just not going there, huh? It's sad. Sad.
So, yeah, I said not a good enough reason. This movie is literally about Salem. Salem lives for this. They are called the Witch City. That is official. And Salem has literally we're going there in October because it's a thing to go there in October because of witches. There's so many witch stores. This is offensive.
Brianna and I have been to Salem together 3 times, I think, and I've never been in the same witch store twice.
Exactly.
Yeah, you always take me to a different one.
Yeah. So anyway, I know I said I was like happy with this movie, but there's 2 major grievances that I have, and it's this and another one that we'll get to. Okay, so back to 1653. The townspeople are going about their day, and a child is angrily pushing through the crowd, causing scares and disruptions. It's a teenage Winifred. She stomps into her house, and her sisters have made a birthday banner and like a spooky gelatin. The actresses are trying very hard to act like their adult counterparts.
Yeah, this was one of those things that like I feel like it's like a cheap laugh in family movies where it's children acting exactly like the adult version of their character.
Yeah.
Like it's such a trope and it's just so played out. And it definitely like, again, I'm not trying to be too negative here, but it definitely made me roll my eyes. I was just like, oh yeah, kids acting like adults. It's so funny.
Well, for me, I feel like the girl who played young Winifred, Taylor Henderson, she nailed it. I really liked her take on it.
Oh yeah, I mean, all 3 of them did great. Don't get me wrong.
Winnie's having the worst day because she was told by Reverend Trask that she is getting old and must get married to John Pritchett.
But she's like 16, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Literally. And she says she took the Lord's name in vain twice, which is bad to the Reverend, but she takes great pleasure in that. Also wondering where the parents are. There are no parents,
Yeah,
but
they
it is
never
Disney.
address that.
No, it's Disney. We don't have to address it.
I guess.
Fuck parents. Mary and Sarah also give her a present. It's the huge, ugly spider. What was it called?
Golden silk orb weaver.
A golden silk orb weaver. So that's what they give her. Winnie thinks it's adorable. The Reverend knocks on the door, and Winnie directs them to act as if they're not there. Very similar to the first one. Sarah's like, "We're not here," and they're just obviously there. When Winnie opens the door, the entire town is there. Reverend Trask declares he's giving her a chance to atone for her language and agree to marry John Pritchett. She sarcastically reconsiders, but says no. John is thrilled, shouting, "Praise God." Townspeople start talking, one saying she cannot speak to a man that way. Winnie says if she is to marry anyone, it will be Billy Butcherson, because they're soulmates.
Oh, I remember Billy Butcherson from the first movie. Do you remember him? Let's remember him together.
He's confused, asking since when, and she says since we had that kiss in the graveyard. This I like because it sets up this whole, like, we're going to tell the true story of Billy Butcherson later. Trask declares something about a rotten apple quickly rotting its neighbor and banishes them from Salem. The townspeople scoop up the sisters, separating them from Winnie, but it all stops when Trask discovers the spider on his cape.
Oh no.
He freaks out. Everyone is saying that they tried to kill the Reverend. The sisters come back together and escape to the Forbidden Woods, not to be confused with the Forbidden Forest in Harry Potter.
And at this point in the movie, I'm pretty unhappy. And I end up not being so angry about it, but I really thought that this scene, because like obviously you're very sympathetic to the girls in this scene. Mm-hmm. And I thought that the scene was going to try to set up this movie for like, the girls aren't evil, they're victims of society, and that's why they ended up this way. Oh. And then we're going to spend the movie rooting for them. And that's what I thought this was leading to, and I was just not having any of it. I've got furious notes here that I'm not going to read because I know it doesn't matter now. But just, I thought we were going in that direction, and I was very unhappy with it.
The woods are spooky, of course, and they reach a clearing to catch their breath. They get scared, realizing they've never been this far into the woods, and they decide to form a calming circle that gets interrupted by, spooky wood sounds like branches breaking, and then they see a big black bird land on a branch. In the distance, they can hear the song being sung, "Come Little Children." Sarah is drawn to it until Winnie yanks her back to them. And then the bird flies off the branch directly toward them, landing as a woman and scooping up Sarah. Winnie fights her to free Sarah, so she grabs Winnie and then lets her go, asking why they've come into the woods. She says that they're different from the other children. She can, smell their power.
That's pretty gross.
A little bit. This woman is obviously a witch, and supposedly her outfit was an elevated version of the Halloween witch costume that Danny wears in the original.
That's a nice little nod.
Lots of people are also saying she's supposed to be Hecate. Do you know who Hecate is?
Isn't it Hecate?
No.
Oh, then no.
It's probably the same person, but it's pronounced Hecate. So she's a goddess in ancient Greek religion and mythology. She's the chief goddess presiding over magic and spells. What this witch does in the movie is present Winnie with the book of spells. So it kind of seems like she's taking on that role. It's said that Hecate's powers are transcendent of the boundaries of sky, earth, seas, and the underworld. And I always get confused when I hear like witches talk about her because sometimes I feel like she's not good and sometimes I think she is good. But that's because many of her attributes fall into the realm of the underworld, but also controlled elements of hers that are placed firmly in the light. So she's sometimes like both. She's a finicky goddess in that she can bestow wealth and blessings on her worshipers, but will withhold that if she's feeling like she's not adequately worshipped. She's also a goddess of boundaries, crossroads, witchcraft, the moon, necromancy, and ghosts. So
necromancy and ghosts.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's said that if you want to bring Hecate in on a spell, you can do it at a crossroads.
That's where you meet the devil, interestingly, too.
Yeah.
Just in like folklore.
Right.
At a crossroads is where you meet the devil as well.
So I think because she's seemingly seen as the queen of witchcraft, that's why people are assuming this character is supposed to be Hecate. Others have said she's supposed to be Morrigan, the goddess of war and fate. Morrigan comes from Irish folklore, and she's also the goddess of death. According to legend, she delivered messages after she appeared as a crow, often mistaken for a raven. She would fly overhead during war, and her appearance would either terrify those fighting or inspire them to fight for their life. In theory, Hecate is more associated with dogs, at least from the research that I've seen, not any kind of bird. This Morrigan is associated with a crow, which is kind of like what the character looks like. That being said, Hannah Waddingham, who plays this character, is just credited as playing the witch mother and no specific goddess.
Yeah, I mean, that is super interesting, and I don't want to sound dismissive of it at all, but I don't think they thought that deep about it.
No, I know.
I don't think it was like...
Just people are saying that, so I wanted to talk about it. In their conversation, the witch mother says that the commoners fear the woods because it's a sacred place for witches. Witches come here to charge their magic, to make them stronger and more powerful. The altar is what makes Salem so special, and she says one day Salem will belong to the witches. Then she gives Winnie the book, wishing her a happy 16th birthday. And when the girls like question how she knows, she's basically just like, I'm a witch, of course I know.
Duh. I just feel like if a bird flew up to my face, turned into a woman, and said happy birthday, my first question wouldn't be, how do you know it's my birthday?
That's a good point. I feel like it's irresponsible to just give a 16-year-old a book of spells with no training or anything, but here we are.
And they have those at our local library.
Truly.
Indoctrinating children.
Yeah, I know. Ugh, you know what? Let's ban the books.
Ban books.
Winnie opens the book, and excitedly they look through the spells. She finds Magicae Maxima, but book closes. Witch Mother tells them it's a very powerful spell, but she must promise to never do it. Plus, book doesn't like it. And Winnie promises she won't do it.
They also find a spell on how to turn somebody into a cat.
They do.
I wonder if that's ever used or referenced or anything. Do you remember that from the first movie?
No.
Let's remember it together.
Witch Mother looks at the three sisters longingly, telling them, "Thou art lucky to have each other. A witch is nothing without her coven." Wow, that was a really bad British accent. That's honestly embarrassing for me.
I didn't know you were trying to be British.
I do better British accents just doing the dishes.
I thought you were just being breathy. That wasn't an accent at all.
It was like when I said thou art.
No, you just said the words thou art, which sound British.
They inquire as to where her coven is, and she says, long gone, the world is not too fond of witches. Lots of people are thinking that she did the Magicae Maxima spell, causing her to lose her coven, which explains why she would be so strongly urging them not to do it. But also it doesn't make sense with what she just said. So I don't know why people have to theorize when she already said it.
Because that's what people do. That's you just did it with the Hecate stuff. Hecate.
No, I was just riffing off of other people's theories again.
Oh, okay.
They thank her, and she bids adieu by bursting into leaves. That night, they return to the village with the book for revenge, and they set the Reverend's house on fire and watch gleefully as everyone freaks out. In any other movie, this would be dark as shit. That's sociopathic. But it's okay. It's a kid's movie.
Is it a kid's movie, though?
I don't know.
This movie is This is not for kids. This movie's for adults who used to be kids and are now miserable. And this is like the 90 minutes of serotonin they get a day. That is the target audience for this movie.
Cut to modern day Salem. We meet Becca. She's riding her bike through town, which I bet was done on purpose. So she'd be like Max riding his bike through town. That same bird is flying overhead as she passes through town. She sees people dressed up for Halloween. So it's Halloween. She arrives at school and parks her bike. Izzy surprises her by wishing her a happy birthday, and they talk about the birthday plans, which is to sleep over at Izzy's after doing the birthday ritual.
Do you have a birthday ritual?
No.
No.
I probably should, but I've never looked into it.
Well, I don't mean a literal ritual.
Oh.
I just mean, do you have something you do every birthday?
Age? Drink?
Yeah. Okay.
Cassie comes up and it's really tense. As she's asking what they're doing tonight, they tell her, we're doing what we always do, a birthday ritual. And they're interrupted by Mike, Cassie's jock boyfriend. He's very stereotypically dumb jock. And Cassie leaves with them.
He is, but he's very nice.
He is nice.
I thought there's a whole thing later on where they say he's being mean, and I get the message, but he's not being mean.
No.
He's so nice.
Yeah. I wrote they very obviously hate this relationship. It's tense because clearly Cassie spends all her time with her boyfriend now and they feel ditched by her, which we'll get to later. They go to their science class and Becca pulls out a stone. It's a turquoise colored stone with black specks on it. And Izzy asks, what do you need good luck for? So I had to Google what this stone could be.
I'm just surprised you had to Google it because you know stones
I don't know all the gems in the world.
You should, with all the time you spent reading gem descriptions in witch stores.
I know. I Googled turquoise colored stone with black specks and came up with blue Dalmatian, jasper, something else that I had never heard of, and also turquoise. Turquoise was the only one that represented anything having to do with luck. It's good for good fortune, protection, and hope. So I'm guessing it's turquoise.
Okay.
Becca is betting there will be a pop quiz today. Cassie comes in and starts talking to Becca and Izzy about plans for tonight when Mike interrupts again to talk about the party, saying, "You're coming, right?" They, of course, do not know about the party, and Cassie wanted to talk to them, I don't know when, a minute before the party, I guess. She was kind of wimping out, I guess. He's like, "Oh, are you guys too busy doing witchery?" Which Becca takes offense to and he's like, "What? That's what you do every Halloween, witch stuff." Becca's like, "It's not witch stuff." And he points to the stone and she says it's for good luck because she thinks there's going to be a quiz. This is my first inkling that I don't understand Becca. She does a birthday ritual every year on Halloween. She believes in the powers of crystals. And she's deeply offended by being called a witch? Who's writing this? That doesn't make sense.
You're right. That makes absolutely no sense at all.
It actually gets worse later.
I know. I saw it.
In walks the teacher dressed like a hot dog, announcing the pop quiz. Mike is annoyingly shocked for some reason that she knew it.
Real quick, though, just shout out to teachers who put on Halloween costumes. You're doing God's work.
And so she whispers what sounds like a spell, only it's just her listing off vegan meats in the sounds of a spell. And she ends on seitan, seitan, which is a form of vegan meat. But it sounds like Satan, so he freaks out.
Because if somebody says Satan at you, you freak out.
Yeah. Is this just like a satanic panic movie? Is this propaganda?
No, I think it's just honestly a joke that he's dumb.
Yeah.
I think it's just a joke at his expense, thankfully.
Cassie gets put in the middle and she's like, "Well, it did kind of sound like you said Satan." And so they both have to go to the principal's office, Mike and Becca.
Okay, so as someone who didn't go to a public high school, did you just get sent to the principal's office for shit like that all the time? Doesn't the principal have better things to do?
I have never seen someone get sent to the principal's office.
I didn't think so. I felt like that was one of those high school movie high school things, you know?
Well, and in elementary and middle school, it was the vice principal in elementary school and also someone else who wasn't even a principal, I feel in middle school. It was maybe you got sent to the counselor. I don't know. But yeah, it's a movie thing.
Yeah, in movies, these teachers are just they don't want to deal with problems at all. They're like, "Oh, you're a problem. Go to the principal's office. Not my problem. I'm not teaching you."
Because that moves the plot.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Mike got weekend detention, which I also don't think is a thing in real life.
Have you seen The Breakfast Club? Oh, wait, no, because you don't watch good movies.
Especially if they're from the 80s. I've only seen Ferris Bueller. That afternoon, the girls go to the Salem Scarefest, and they spot a billboard with Cassie's family on it. Her dad is the mayor, and her family dates back to the witch trials. His last name is Trask, so...
And I was delighted to get more Tony Hale.
Yes.
I thought he was gone. I thought it was just a little pop-in.
You know what's funny is when he was dressed as the Reverend, I didn't notice it was Tony Hale.
It took me a minute to recognize him as the Reverend.
And then when I saw him as the mayor, I was like, oh. And then I realized, oh, it's the same person. But in the background of that billboard was Max's house from the original, which everyone knows is a real house. And I've been there. Wow.
Legally, or were you like trespassing?
Yeah, everyone just goes there and takes pictures in front of the house.
That's gotta suck to live there.
I think they like it.
All right.
It's a nice house. They see Mayor Trask at the fest, and he wishes Becca happy birthday. He's super nice, like the nicest dad, and also super corny. He ensures they're coming to the carnival and talks about how he's super excited that Sandy's Candy Cauldron is coming back from Boston because her caramel apples are legendary. And he makes it sound like Boston is really far away, but it is not. It's right there. It's right there. You can take a ferry.
Well, here's the thing. People that aren't from New England aren't gonna, well, not New England, but people from LA aren't gonna drive 45 minutes to get a candy apple. Like, that's forever.
It's not 45 even, though.
I mean.
Nah.
No?
Let's see.
46 minutes, says Google.
Damn, it's 46 minutes. That's because you gotta go all around. It's really actually inconvenient, but it's still, I bet the ferry is faster.
I'm sure the ferry is faster. But my point is, this wasn't written by somebody who lives in New England, because he would just go to Boston for those all the time if he lived in Salem.
Right. 45 minutes is nothing in New England, though.
No, absolutely not. I commuted 45 minutes.
Yeah. Before they leave or like depart from him, he hands him the rest of these flyers that he's handing out. I think they're like political vote for me flyers, but we don't really I only am mentioning it because we talk about them again later.
Yeah, I mean, election day is usually pretty soon after Halloween.
True. Next, they head to the old Salem magic shop, which looks like it's the witch's cottage, and it is, but it also doesn't look enough like it actually is.
Because it's fake.
It just feels different from the original because it is, but
yeah,
it just was irksome. They're there to see Gilbert, the shop owner, and he calls himself Gilbert the Great, and he's putting on this little show. When they get inside, they drop the flyers on a shelf and watch the show.
It's also, I just want to mention, this is the point where I realized it wasn't filmed in Salem. I was looking at everything and I was like, I don't recognize any of this.
Yeah.
This is somewhere else.
The show is all about the Sanderson sisters. He has the book locked in a glass case, and there's also a really annoying heckler. He talks about how the book contains the very potion they used to kill Emily Binks in 1693. He explains the curse, and when he mentions that there needs to be a virgin lighting the candle, they use that same old joke with a little kid asking, what does a virgin mean? And he says, it's a person who's never lit a candle.
It's genius, honestly.
Then he talks about how 20 years ago, some swear they saw 3 figures fly across the moon, and shows the remnants of the black flame candle all burned down, as if to suggest that this really happened. The annoying heckler says, ooh, so they're just walking among us. And Gilbert kind of drops character and he's like, no, man, it only worked for one night. Can you just let me get through this?
Yeah. No one's forcing you to be there, guy.
Yeah.
You could just leave at any time.
He says that they cannot return unless there was another candle, to which he then unveils another black flame candle. After the show, he approaches the girls, calling them his favorite customers. So Becca, the girl who doesn't want to be a witch, frequents the witch shop.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to get a new stone, and he's like, not just that, it's your 16th birthday. They say that's when a witch gets her powers.
They said it was her birthday, but this is the first time they said how old she was turning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no way this girl's turning 60. She's like 25.
She does look a little
minimum
old. Yeah.
25.
Yeah. It's weird because the girl who played Winifred looked less than 16, and then she looks older than 16.
The girl who played Winifred is what actual 16-year-olds look like.
I guess. Maybe, yeah.
We just don't see enough of them in real life.
Yeah. When he says that this is the 16th birthday is when a witch gets her powers, Becca's comment is something about how that's just the patriarchy and anti-female aging stuff. Which
Go on, King.
Literally makes no sense. First of all, the patriarchy doesn't want to talk about anyone being witches, so they won't just say that girls get their powers on their 16th birthday. Plus, it's not just girls who can become witches. And also, anti-aging, you can't stop a girl from turning 16, but the patriarchy wouldn't want you to know that you could become a witch on your 16th birthday. Her adversity to witchcraft, yet actively partaking in it, is problematic, and it's a weird choice.
All right, guys, you heard it here. Brianna says the patriarchy does not exist.
No, I didn't say that.
I know, I'm just teasing you.
He also gives her a gift. It's a wonky-looking candle, but it's specifically charged for her, and free, of course. Also, by the register, he's giving away little pouches of angelica leaves, and Izzy takes one. Gilbert says it's to reverse curses. This is true enough. I Googled it. A slight bit of Googling, so don't get mad at me if you know anything more. But it's supposed to be a powerful protective ingredient and incorporated into spells to ward off evil and bring good fortune.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like there are a lot of things that you can burn to ward off evil.
Like what?
Like sage, right?
Yes.
And
but that's to cleanse and also like protect, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of in that family the smudging. Mm-hmm. All of those.
Or smoke cleansing, yeah.
Smoke cleansing, that's the word. Thank you. We're not supposed to say smudging, right? Sorry.
Good job.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
They head into the woods, and to get there, they have to go through Salem Plantation. Conveniently, they end up in the very same clearing as the witches.
The altar.
Yes. Becca sets up the new crystal and candle, which, speaking of cleansing, she didn't do that to any of this stuff. You're supposed to cleanse it first. Izzy puts a photo down of her, Becca, and Cassie from when they were in those woods when they were young. Becca doesn't like it, but she keeps it there. Then she lights the candle, and together they say, "Another year begins anew, maiden mother and crone too. We call on thee with one request, help our intentions manifest."
Okay. I have a question for a witch.
Okay, I'm not a witch. I mean, I try to be. I'm just
You
not.
are just bashing Becca
I know. I know.
there.
That's imposter syndrome, though. I'm not being negative. I'm just having imposter syndrome.
I'm just saying,
like a good millennial.
You just said that Becca shouldn't say she's not a witch because she does all these things, and you do all these things.
Maybe she has imposter syndrome too. I'll be nicer.
Don't be nicer. We're not here to be nice. But no, okay. Anyway, question for somebody who's more familiar with this stuff than I am.
Okay.
Do spells have to rhyme, and why?
I would say I've never read anything about them having to rhyme. What I have read about words in general is that your words are powerful, which has to do with, what you think and what you say. So I would say it probably doesn't have to rhyme. It just has to make sense to you.
Okay.
That was a good answer.
Yeah,
I am a witch.
I know.
So when they finish this spell or incantation, the candle begins to spark like crazy, and she has to put it out with like this bottle of water that she has. Once that goes out, they relax until the candle reignites itself and it has a black flame.
Oh no.
And it doesn't blow out. And then they hear the song. Come, little children. You know the rest. There's a rumbling and the ground begins to split. The wind goes wild, yet the candle remains lit. The world just turns to pitch black, and then thunder rumbles and lightning strikes. We see three figures and hear their laughter, and then we hear, "Lock up your children. Yes, Salem, we're back."
And immediately, someone's like, "Are those the Sanderson sisters?" Like, how would they know so immediately?
The hair.
How have they seen the hair? How does anybody know what the Sanderson sisters look like?
I don't know.
They have this lookalike contest. Who's ever seen them?
I don't know. We don't need to know.
I need to know.
Their triumphant return begins with a musical number. Yeah, the witches are back.
All right, you can't sing anymore or else we have to pay Disney to use that.
It's so catchy.
Brianna watched this movie before me. Normally, when we watch a scary movie, I see it first and then we watch it together. So we thought for this one, maybe it'll be fun to reverse that. And she was singing this song like along with the movie when she was watching it. I could hear her in the other room and I was so confused. Where did you learn the lyrics? But it's just very catchy. You just pick them up as you go.
It really was a good one. Oh, God. Okay. The girls realize candle plus virgin plus moon, and they run. So while they're running away, Izzy wonders aloud, who are they performing for?
You got to add those meta jokes for the millennials. Yeah. We love those.
We really do. And they come to a stop when Sarah appears and says, you. And then all three are there. Okay, so teleporting, new trick that the Sanderson sisters have picked up. And also, I fully jumped in this scene the first time I saw it. I wasn't expecting her face to just be there, and it was very up close to the camera. It honestly scared me. Listen to this, people. Do you understand the trauma that I put myself through each week watching actually scary movies when I am scared at this?
That's just kind of mean to Bette Midler.
It was Sarah Jessica Parker.
Even meaner.
Get your shit together.
That's Mrs. Matthew Broderick.
It sure is. Winnie explains that they'll just do what they did before, and she calls for Book. Book does not immediately come, and she's worried, which is weird because Book doesn't just come when she calls in the original either. She calls multiple times for Book, and he doesn't come. Or it doesn't come. They talk about retracing their steps and recall the cottage and the boys hanging in the cages. And they remember how awful teenagers are and decide they'll just kill the next ones they see.
Okay. I noticed in this scene when I was watching it, Kathy and Jimmy is talking out the wrong side of her mouth.
Oh, yeah.
The girl in the beginning was talking out of one side, and Kathy and Jimmy was talking out of the other side.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Kathy and Jimmy just couldn't do it out of the whatever the correct side is. The original side, she just couldn't do it.
That's fine, but why would you have the girl do it?
I know.
That side, then?
I don't know. I think they explain it, and I don't know why they do it later. I don't know when it happens, but apparently Winnie slaps her a couple times, and that's how they're explaining that her mouth shifted.
Oh.
Even though it was shifted immediately.
So I guess in the canon, it would have been on the other side during the first Hocus Pocus and when she was a child.
No. So the canon is originally, let's say it was on the left side. I don't know what the original side is, but let's say the original was the left side. Kathy and Jimmy can't do the left side anymore, so it switches to the right side. In this movie, Winifred smacks her in the face, and that's what puts it to the right side.
Right. So what I'm saying is the girl using the other side earlier in the movie.
Right. The left side.
That was like lore accurate.
Yeah.
That was like somebody was like, we need to check the continuity on which side of her mouth she can talk out of.
Right.
That's impressive.
But they also could have just done nothing and just had the little girl do it on the other side, and then Kathy and Jimmy do it on the other side, and we just say nothing.
Yeah, but Twitter.
Well, because I honestly was like, I bet she just can't do it. So then I looked it up, and there's a quote from her saying, I don't know, I just couldn't do it. So she did it on the other side. Yeah.
All right.
The girls claim that they're 40. That's how they get out of being teenagers. And honestly, they should have just said 25 because that's how old they look.
Yeah, for real.
And they also say they eat young souls all the time because they're just like the sisters. In fact, they idolize them. The sisters love to hear that. And the girls convince them that they can just buy children's souls already mixed up in bottles. Sarah says, this is a very funny part. I'm not going to do it justice, but she's like, no more luring children to their demise. I delighted in the luring. 'Twas my only job.
You laughed so hard at that, and I didn't laugh at all. And I actually made a note of that. Brianna is laughing and asks how I don't laugh at this scene when Sarah Jessica Parker says luring is her only job.
It was so funny. I'm still laughing. Just thinking about it.
I'm going to have to take your word for it. I guess I wasn't there.
Oh. And then they say, lead us to thine apothecary. And they go to the Walgreens because, of course.
Good product placement.
And by the way, Walgreens, remember when they would do those commercials and they had like a narrator? One of the narrators was Aiden from Sex and the City, which was Sarah Jessica Parker's show. And that's just a fun little connection for you.
All right.
They direct them to aisle 4 and they do their like trio walk.
I remember that from the first movie. Do you remember that?
I do.
Let's remember it together.
And I love it. They think they can escape, the girls, but Mary surprises them from behind, doing her little teleporting trick again. She says she wants them close in case she decides to eat them and brings them down the aisle. They start eating all the lotions. They eat a face mask because it's supposed to be a face of a child. And while they do this, Becca thinks they should go get salt. Izzy's like, why? So we can taste better when they eat us? She says no, because it's protective. Or at least that's what Gilbert says when he tries to get people to buy it.
Not a witch, though.
Right. But she also doesn't even believe it. But she does believe it.
I mean, if these witches just show up in front of you in the middle of the woods, you just have to throw everything you believe out the window.
Yeah.
Like anything can work now.
3 other girls come over and ask, are you the Sanderson sisters? And they're dressed just like them. Izzy runs off to get the salt. The sisters take a selfie with their fans, which is also another hilarious part.
Yeah, so funny.
They are happy with the lotions until they see themselves in a mirror, one of those mirrors that like distorts their faces. So they accost an employee to tell them how many souls are in it. And he's like, none. But Becca blames the lighting. So Winnie strikes it with her powers and the whole Walgreens goes dark. Becca runs away and right into Izzy, who has all the salt. Winnie shoots her powers at them. And at the same time, Becca spreads the salt around them. But the curse reverts backward and goes back to the witches. I'm thinking it wasn't just the salt.
No, I think it was. It happens later in the garage, too, with the salt.
No, I know, but reverting the curse, I don't think it was just the salt.
So, like, Becca, like, cast a spell on the salt?
She just has those hands powers that we see later.
Oh, okay. All right. You're the expert.
The girls run away, and the witches decide to fly. Winnie grabs a Halloween costume broom that's right there. Sarah gets a Swiffer, and Mary leaves with 2 of those robot vacuums.
And this is the worst part of the entire movie.
Why?
Because Kathy and Jimmy, bless her soul, gets on these Roombas, and she goes...
Roombas, that's what they're called. I forgot.
I'm surfing. Cowabunga. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Why? What?
I mean, well, first of all, how would she know what surfing is
well,
or
they did that
term
in the first
cowabunga?
one.
But second, and most importantly... That is literally like a throw-in joke from like the 1990s Disney movies.
Yeah, that's why she did it.
No, but it's not good here. It has no place in 2022. It has to go back to its home.
Yeah, I didn't laugh.
It does not belong here. Hated it. It made me cringe. It physically hurt me.
This is a callback to the original where Winnie got a broom, Sarah got a mop, and Mary got just a regular old vacuum. Get it? Do you get it?
I do, yeah. Okay.
They plan to go to the cottage, get the book, and brew the potion to run amok. I actually didn't like Sarah's delivery of it. It was disappointing.
It was, again, I just rolled my eyes. I was like, oh, she said amok. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Do you remember when she did that in the original movie? I remember when she did that in the original movie. Let's remember it together. That's all these movies are.
Back at the magic store, the girls run in yelling at Gilbert about the candle. They see that the book's eye is open, and Gilbert is very excited about it. He unlocks the cabinet it's in, and he's like, hey, do you remember me? It's Gilbert, talking to the book. He immediately opens it, and light shoots out of it. Then he asks, what were they like? It's giving Professor Moody as Barty Crouch Jr. vibes. What was he like in the graveyard?
Oh, that's good. She did the tongue thing, guys. They're not going to be able to see that.
No, but they can hear it.
Yeah.
Gilbert admits that he planned the whole thing, but couldn't have lit it himself. And when they ask why, he smirks.
And says, 'cause I fuck. No, he doesn't say that, but he implies it.
He fully implies it. They're very grossed out by it. Gilbert just thinks the witches are misunderstood, and now that everyone loves them, they won't have to be bad. Then the sisters arrive because this is also their cottage. They are displeased that there are no cobwebs or rat tails and that it doesn't smell like death. Gilbert tells them that's because of the plugins for clean linen. He introduces himself as their biggest fan. Book makes its way to Winnie, and Mary finds the, quote, 2 40-year-old teenagers, while Sarah scavenges for her rat tails.
And at this point in the movie, it really made me think about something called Flanderization. Do you know what that is?
No.
Have we talked about that?
It sounds inappropriate.
Oh, it's incredibly inappropriate. Yeah. No. So it's this trope mostly in television because it requires a passage of time. But it's named after Ned Flanders, the neighbor from The Simpsons, who started out as just kind of like a friendly, slightly offbeat religious guy. And over the course of The Simpsons, which is still airing, but really over the course of like 15 seasons, he really became this caricature. He became, religion was his entire identity. He became sillier and sillier and sillier. And, you know, you lose so much of that original character because you just hone in on these aspects, and the character over time just becomes more and more representative of those aspects. That's what I felt like happened with the Sanderson sisters in this movie. The characters in this movie are not the same characters from the first movie. The characters in this movie are the memes that the characters have become since the first movie. Do you know what I mean? We remember the most outlandish parts, and these characters are based on the most outlandish parts that we remember, not their entire personalities from the first movie.
I would say yes and no. I feel like, what were their personalities in the original movie? Like, were they really fleshed out?
I mean, they weren't really fleshed out. They just weren't this cartoonish. They were silly, but they weren't, again, they're just caricatures of themselves, it felt like to me. I'm looking too much into it, for sure. But it just, again, it just felt different to me.
The girls get tossed into the dungeon, which is essentially just the cellar. As Winnie closes the door on them, she says, "None shall see or hear thee shout. Heed my words, there's no way out." And with that, the stairs disappear. The girls listen, because they can hear through the cracks, as Gilbert tells the sisters that he's been trying to bring them back since he saw them on Halloween night in 1993. He spotted them flying through the sky. He followed them all the way back to the cemetery, where he watched their demise. He went to see if the candle was lit back at the museum. That's what it was before it was a magic shop. And found Book. Book was awake and apparently showed him how to make another candle. Book is much more alive in this one than he or it was in the first.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mary finds the flyers that the girls left behind of Mayor Trask, and she points it out thinking it's the Reverend. Winnie knows it must be a descendant. That kind of sets her off. She decides she's done with potions. She wants to be the most powerful witch so no one can mess with them again. She declares that they will do Magicae Maxima. The promise from 300 years ago is surely expired, she says.
Well, I mean, you've died twice, so.
Yeah.
I feel like if you promise somebody something and then you die and come back to life, all bets are off.
Exactly.
You can do whatever you want.
Totally.
You took that secret to your grave, and now it's fine.
Yeah, it's not your fault you're back to life.
Yeah, not at all.
However, Book keeps itself shut. Sarah tries to discourage her, but she gets it opened anyway. And there's a warning, of which Winnie says she has no time to read. They learn the incantation must be recited 7 times and completed in a sacred place. This is how the girls learn that the Forbidden Woods is sacred. The ingredients are head of a lover, witch's butter, a petrified spider, a drop of thy enemy's blood, and a couple other things that I couldn't write down. For the lover's head, Winnie says she'll get Billy, but Sarah clarifies that that was her lover. As Gilbert tries to sneak away, Winnie asks if he has the Sanderson hourglass. He tries to say no, but they threaten to kill him, so he retrieves it. While he grabs it, a black cat lands on the table. They freak out, thinking it's Thackeray Binks. As they're about to kill it, Gilbert tells them it's not Thackeray, his name is Cobweb, and he distracts them with the hourglass. Winnie tells him he needs to get the ingredients and puts a binding spell on him so that when the sand runs out, he'll die if he doesn't get the ingredients in time. Meanwhile, they'll retrieve the mare. Winnie hides Book amongst others that look exactly like it on a shelf, and the girls try to figure out how to escape once the witches leave, since they've just learned that the witches are going to kill their bestie's dad. They start by FaceTiming Cassie. From the party, she picks up her phone, but she can't see or hear them because of the spell. Frustrated that it's just a butt dial, she assumes, she hangs up. Izzy recalls the Angelica leaves, and Becca is annoyed at even the suggestion. Gilbert goes to the graveyard to dig up Billy, though he doesn't think he'll have enough time to dig up a grave. When he starts with the shovel, though, he realizes that Billy isn't that far down. He hits it a couple times, and then Billy kind of just bursts out. Gilbert runs away, thinking it's a zombie, saying, "Don't eat my brains." And Billy's like, why would I eat your brains? I was woken up in 1993 and never went back to sleep.
And like, given how close he is to the surface, you think he just like comes out and walks around sometimes?
Maybe.
Right?
For a change of scenery.
At least on Halloween.
At least.
Yeah.
Billy tries to go back to his grave, but Gilbert says he's doing a spell to kill Winnie, which convinces him to work with Gilbert. As they talk, Billy is surprised that Gilbert is even familiar with him and his story. He's like, oh yeah, everyone knows about you and knows that you were Winnie's lover and cheated on her with Sarah. And he's like, no, it was one kiss, one time. The witches are at Salem Scarefest, hunting for the mayor, who's in line for a candy apple. The girls light the Angelica leaves on fire, but nothing happens instantly, so they're confused. Izzy then suggests doing a hand-wavy thing with a spell. Becca has to be persuaded, but it works. Probably thanks to Becca having magic that she doesn't know about, as we do see her hands glowing blue.
She's a witch.
Becca calls Mr. Trask and tattles on Cassie because it'll get him to go back to the house. Then she finds Book thanks to Cobweb, who's sitting by it. However, Book succeeds in staying at the house, essentially. And they run off to Cassie's house. The sisters run into someone who recognizes them and says, you must be looking for the stage, to which Winnie says, always.
That was Bet, not Winnie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I appreciated it. On stage is a drag show of the Sanderson sisters, like impersonators.
Oh, drag show? Oof. Some guy with like square hair and sunglasses in his profile pic is not going to be happy about that.
They think it's a bunch of worshipers of them. And when asked what their group name is, they say the Originals. Despite literally being them, they do not win. Winnie declares it's an error and tells them all, be gone.
Charlie Chaplin once entered a Charlie Chaplin lookalike contest and came in 20th place.
Is that like a science thing? Does that just prove that we don't actually know what people look like or something?
Probably. Yeah.
Proves that like you can't witness anything happening and be like reliable, essentially.
Oh yeah, eyewitnesses in criminal cases are notoriously unreliable.
She announces they've come for the blood of thy mayor, and asks, where is he? No one answers, so they decide to bewitch them. This leads to a song, so, just like the original, except it's worse because they sing one way or another.
Yeah, they couldn't get anything better than this.
This was just a poor choice.
Like, I Put a Spell on You is a magic song.
Yeah.
One way or another has nothing to do with witches or magic.
It was the worst.
Trash.
I was so mad when I heard it start. We've heard that in Mean Girls. I've heard that. I think I've heard Angelica Pickles sing it in the Rugrats movie. And that's just 2 examples off the top of my head. And there's endless others. And that's the one they went with. It's truly disheartening. This puts the crowd under a spell. The crowd's job is to lead them to the mayor. So this was a huge dance number. And seeing this reminded me that there was a casting call for people to come to do a dance number. And I'm pretty sure that I put my name in for this.
Oh, I'm sorry you didn't get it.
I didn't get a callback or anything or even an acknowledgement.
It's rough.
Yeah. And that's how I knew they were filming in Rhode Island. I was like, why is it in Rhode Island? I was pissed. Also in the crowd, you can see costumes are the same costumes from the adult party in the original. So another little Easter egg for you.
Yeah, I noticed Madonna back there.
Yeah, and I guess the Supremes are in there too.
Mm.
They fly over the people as they walk.
Did you see one of the windows they passed, though?
Oh, we haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So they grow frustrated, though, because the crowd is not moving fast enough, so they split, and a montage begins. So part of the montage, Cassie's cleaning up the mess from the party that her dad made her clear out, but he's heading back to the fest so that he can get his apple. And then the witches fly around peeking through windows. Winnie finds 2 guys watching the movie, specifically the Gary Marshall and Penny Marshall scene. So I have a whole thing on this. I was like, why did they do this? What does that mean? Like, is there, meta stuff like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is kind of troubling to imply the existence of the Hocus Pocus film in this universe.
Right. It was confusing. It made my brain hurt.
I think, yeah.
As to why this was included, Fletcher, the director, said, I always knew I wanted to put some scene from the original movie on the TV because I thought it would be fun. and true to modern day Halloween, with fans always watching Hocus Pocus. My editor, Julia Wong, and I landed on the cameo with Gary and Penny because it's one of the funniest parts of the movie, and their characters are so beloved by everyone, including myself. That, and it just felt right to put Gary and Penny in this movie. She also said that it adds a way for us to, quote, remember and honor them as being a huge, important, and fun part of the original, not to mention their importance of who they are in the world and what they gave us all during their lives. Joy, laughter, happiness. Again, it just felt right. So initially she kind of like tries to give a reason, but then we just end up at like she wanted to honor Gary and Penny Marshall. Yeah. And that's fine.
Which is nice. Yeah. Yeah. And they were probably my favorite part of the original movie. They're great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lilia, who plays Cassie, she said, quote, it makes you think, did they, in the Hocus Pocus cinematic universe, make a movie about the Sanderson sisters, and that's why they have so much lore about them, and why drag queens dress up as them?
That doesn't make sense. So
you did ask, yeah.
And I guess if Winnie hadn't referenced Thackeray Binks, you could maybe argue that the first movie never happened because we don't see any of those characters anyway.
Yeah, but also Gilbert mentions Emily Binks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, that's what I mean though. You take out the Binks stuff because none of the old actors returned. Mm-hmm. You could just say that is a movie. This is real life.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Also, just real quick, when did Winnie hear Blondie? How does Winnie know Blondie? Just asking for a friend.
Meanwhile, Billy is helping Gilbert get all the ingredients together. At the end of the montage, the girls bang on the door to Cassie's house, and when she opens it, she's angry at them for ratting. I don't know why her dad had to say, oh, Becca called me and said that you're having a party. Like, he couldn't have just been like, I heard kids at the Scarefest talking about a party.
Parents just don't understand.
Mike comes sprinting down the street because behind him, the witches are chasing him, flying through the air. The girls run inside, closing the door. Cassie recognizes them immediately. I suppose it helps that they were flying, so it makes it a little more believable. The witches knock down the door. Winnie tells them to spread out to find them. So Sarah spreads out her legs, like physically, taking it literally. Winnie, of course, grows frustrated, and she's like, be serious. And what sounds like Alexa starts talking, which is confusing because I think it starts because she said be serious.
Oh.
But then it's Alexa, and it's an unknown device. It's not clearly an Apple or an Amazon device, but I guess that's what we're supposed to think.
Not once did I think, nobody said Alexa. Like, I just rolled with it. Didn't even dawn on me.
I was like, this doesn't make sense. Why did it just start talking? And
I was just living in the moment.
It must be the serious.
Yeah, I guess so.
Meanwhile, the townspeople have found the mayor at the caramel apple stand. They dance to him. This part was really well done. It looked cool. And they're surrounding him, dancing as they approach. He loves it. He thinks it's a flash mob. Since they have found him, though, the spell is over and they all kind of confusedly disperse. Meanwhile, Sandy, the candy apple lady, has run out of candy apples, and Mayor Trask is distraught. Billy is at a game at the fest trying to get a spider toy, considering it to count for a petrified spider. I don't think it will, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's not how spells work, right?
I don't think so. Maybe the intent of the object is all that matters and not the actual object. I don't know. But Gilbert runs off. At the house, the witches go into the garage. Mary smells children and spots one of them hiding very unsuccessfully. Winnie goes to call her and for some reason wants to use her name. And Mary's like, it's Shiska baby, which she says in the first one. And then Sarah's like, Edward.
Brianna's laughing so hard.
It's so stupid. But just the way that Sarah Jessica Parker delivers that name kills me. Just the thought of it kills me. It's so funny and stupid.
I didn't laugh at this one, but I will admit they call it back like 15 minutes later, and I did laugh at that. Oh no, I've set her off.
It's so funny. Funny horror is so fun.
Horror? Do not sully that word.
Okay. Becca gets them not to kill her because she's holding a little bottle of water and says it's the last of some kind of component that they need for the spell. Fooling them once again with water. Call back to the original.
Do you remember that? I remember that. Let's remember that together.
At the call of now, the two others burst out of hiding and spread salt around the witches. Winnie's powers do not work because the salt blocks dark magic and they're trapped.
And also because Becca's a witch, right?
No, that's just the salt.
Earlier you... What's happening here?
I don't think it reverts the spell like it did. They were confused when it happened. But this, maybe I'm just looking into it too much. Maybe I'm wrong. I just think it was a little much with that salt initially. But
no, I mean, I'm not questioning your belief. I'm just trying to understand because I thought that I understood what you were saying before. But I clearly did not.
You were so sure when you said.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Becca drinks the water and she says, "You've been tricked by teenagers again." Gilbert has returned to his store to find that no matter how he turns the, what's the sand thing called?
Hourglass.
The hourglass. It stays the same. And Billy arrives with the spider and learns that Winnie has cursed him. So he sees that and is like, "Winnie cursed you. You've been lying to me." And he runs off. But Gilbert needs the head. So he tackles him essentially and takes the head.
He just like rips his head off with his bare hands.
Yeah.
Not enough is made of that.
I mean, it's fallen off a couple times already, though.
Yeah.
Can it really be fully sewn back on easily?
Yeah, I guess.
Body Billy is left alone to find his head. Outside of the house, Mike blames them for bringing the witches back, saying you shouldn't mess around with witchery. In the argument, it comes out that Cassie didn't know they were even mad at her because they didn't tell her. Becca defends herself, asking, why would we want to hang out with people who make fun of us? This is where Mike doesn't think he's making fun of them. He's like, but you do weird witchery stuff. I didn't know that was making fun of you. So, yeah, he's just kind of a dummy and realizes he has a lot of people to apologize to.
Yeah, and I took a little issue with this. I mean, obviously, you can't call somebody weird and like be like, what do you mean? I'm not insulting you. I get that. But I think it's also,
he's earnest.
Exactly. He's being kind. And I think there's also a little bit of impetus on the person hearing those words to think about the source and think about where it's coming from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is, I'm like, maybe I'm out of touch on this one. Maybe this is just one where I'm just like, this is one of those old man things where we're getting old and I can't understand it. Because I get saying, oh, you shouldn't call people weird. I totally get that. But I also think painting words as so black and white like that, not harmful words, as black and white like that is also not really the answer.
Right.
Yeah. So I was a little like, because earlier in the movie, I was like, oh, he's so nice.
Yeah.
I like him. And then they're like, oh, he's being mean to them,
That's how I felt too. I was like, is he supposed to be a bully? Are we supposed to think he's a bully or not? Because I'm getting not bully vibes, but like, they don't like him. So it was kind of strange.
Really feel like this is just us. Like, this is one of our boomer moments. Like, we're becoming the people that don't understand the change. And you know what? That's fine. I support you. You whatever makes you happy.
Yeah. Yep. Meanwhile, Cassie's dad comes home, opening the garage. He gets out of his car, very confused to see the witches there. He's like, the party's over, but nice costume. Sanderson sisters, right? And he's like thinking they're kind of doing a bit. And he's like, oh, I can do it too. I can be the Reverend. I hate the Sanderson sisters. And then it pauses for a moment where you almost think, did he just actually become the Reverend? And then he like laughs and he's like, I can't really do it. Cassie comes running over. So they learn that the bloodline has continued. Mwahaha.
Ooh.
The girls try to spread salt on him and he's like, no, stop. Like, I've had a terrible day. And he goes on to talk about how, his daughter threw a party. He never got his apple. Truly devastated.
And the best joke of the movie.
What?
He's like, I come home and you've got the gothic Golden Girls in the garage.
Yeah.
The gothic Golden Girls is, that's money. It's 100%.
Honestly, I want to see that costume. Like actual Golden Girls, but gothic.
All right. So we've got like 4 listeners. You guys make it happen. Gothic Betty White for Halloween this year.
Love it.
It's a tribute to her.
Yeah. He goes inside and the girls walk off. Meanwhile, Mary's broomies which are enchanted and have like a personality.
Broomies are their Roombas.
Yeah.
For those of you who may not have
she's
followed
calling
that.
them broomies though.
No, I know. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
I was just saying it wasn't me who came up with that. Because that would be something I would say.
It absolutely is, yeah.
They found her because they're enchanted. And she knows they hate mess. And so she calls them over and they clean up the salt.
That seems like reverse product placement. Like, don't get a Roomba or those witches in your garage are going to escape.
Yeah. While the girls are outside planning to just sit there for the rest of the night until sunrise, Cassie is scooped up by the witches. Becca's hands glow blue. And they're like, I don't know what that is, but we got to get to the woods. In the woods already are Gilbert and Billy's head. Gilbert is setting up the ingredients on a giant crystal altar. The sisters arrive. Winnie greets Billy, and his response is, hello, you withering hag. Her response to that is to sew up his mouth again.
Did you notice that the stitches on his mouth spelled the word kill?
No.
Yeah,
That's
it
scary.
looked like it to me.
I don't like that. Winnie calls for Book. Book bursts through the window of the magic shop and reaches her hands in seconds. They cut Cassie. I don't even see it happen, but they cut her a little bit. It's nothing traumatic, to get her blood and then tie her up for later. Gilbert is no longer needed, so she shoots her powers at him, which makes him fly away. The girls see that, but they keep moving on towards the clearing. The sisters begin the incantation, which again must be recited 7 times. And while the girls sneak up on the clearing, Becca's hands are glowing again, causing Izzy to realize that she's a witch. Although they feel like that makes no sense, they plan to use her magic to stop the witches and save Cassie. While Izzy goes off to release Cassie, Becca calls out to Winnie to interrupt the cantation. Since her hands are glowing, Sarah says, Edward is a witch?
Yeah, that was a good one. I laughed at that one.
Winnie is quite arrogant, laughing off that Becca thinks she could go against the strongest coven. But Izzy and Cassie begin throwing rocks at the sisters, and in trying to defend themselves, Sarah and Mary realize they have powers when it begins coming out of their fingertips. This goes unexplained. Is it because they're in this sacred place? Did they always have these powers and just didn't know it? Is it because the incantation has begun, which I don't think that's right because you have to say it 7 times?
It's convenient for storytelling purposes. That's why.
While they play around with their newly discovered powers, Izzy and Cassie run off, but Winnie hits Becca with her powers. And she calls the sisters fools, as she always does. But this time, having power, Sarah hits Winnie with hers. She's finally standing up for herself, if only for just a moment, though, because Winnie yells at her again, and they both go on their merry way, carrying out their eldest sister's orders, as always. Becca says you have a choice to not do the spell, but she's telling that to Book. She raises her hand and Book goes to her, much to Winnie's dismay. Then Becca runs off with it, leaving Winnie distraught. Talking to Book, she asks if there's anything they can do. It opens up to Magicae Maxima. Becca's like, well, no, you're misunderstanding. I don't want the power. But Izzy realizes that it wants her to read the warning. The warning is that power is meant to be shared, so to claim it all, a price must be paid. What thou values most dearly must be paid. The witches reach them, and so Becca defends them with her powers, creating a dome over the girls to block out the witches. All 3 sisters start shooting, though, and Izzy reminds them of what they just learned, power is meant to be shared, and asks Becca for her hands. All 3 hold hands, which amplifies the dome, and that works. In her arrogance, Winnie says they don't need the book and will complete the spell without it. When they depart, Becca realizes how to stop them. Back in the clearing, the witches have reached the final incantation. Once it's done, power shoots from the altar and across the land, thunder and lightning all throughout Salem. Then the black flame candle blows out, but they're still here.
Oh no.
They celebrate their immortality, dancing in the woods and shooting off their powers. The girls arrive again at the clearing, and Becca tells them that they should have read the warning because it takes what you value most. While Winnie is telling her off, Mary and Sarah begin to levitate and, starting with their hands and legs, begin to turn to sparkling dust.
Oh no.
Mary says, oh, Winnie, please don't forget us. Also, I know I was the favorite. Winnie is panicked, begging them not to leave her. Sarah says, art thou not coming with us? Then, as the sparkling dust overtakes them, Mary says, bye-bye. And Sarah whispers, goodbye. just like they did in the original.
Do you remember that from the original? I remember that from the original. Let's remember it together.
And her sisters are gone. Winnie begs to rescind the spell. She pleads with Book to undo what she has done. Becca says that they're the price she paid, and she says, "Oh, not my sisters, my infuriating sisters." She says, "Oh, Book, for old time's sake, can nothing be done?" I'm not doing it justice.
No, I mean, you're no Bette Midler, but who is?
As Book watches Winnie's deep regret, it turns over in Becca's hands and opens to a page. Winnie begs Becca and her coven to do it since they're the only ones who can help. She says her powers are nothing without her sisters. The spell is for reuniting, and when they finish it, Winnie looks around for Sarah and Mary, but they do not appear. The book closes, and Becca clarifies that it doesn't bring them back, it sends you to them. Winnie then begins to turn into sparkling dust. She laughs and says, "Thank thee, how lucky art thou to have each other," just like Witch Mother said to her 300 years ago.
This is just incredibly sudden, though. This movie, the bad guys get what they're looking for, and then 5 minutes later, the movie is over.
Yeah.
Just like, this is what we wanted. Oh, wait, no. The end.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So fast. Just such a fast turnaround.
Her last word is "sisters," as she bursts into triumphant red sparkle and light.
Is that her first word when she appears in the original Hocus Pocus?
I don't know.
I bet it is.
Bette Midler deserves an award for this scene. This was taking a turn from a child's comedy to a drama, okay?
Yeah, I was actually a little surprised you weren't crying. Did you cry the first time?
That's because I cried the first time I watched it.
I had a feeling.
And almost cried rewriting these notes, okay?
Oh, my goodness.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful. I'm not judging. I'm sorry.
But also, note that Winnie gave up her life to return to her sisters, which is just what she told Max was foolish to do in the original. Gilbert and the body of Billy arrive to help, though relieved to know that they're too late since they had no plan. Body and head reunite, and then Billy also turns to sparkling dust. He finally gets to sleep for reals now.
And Gilbert tells him he's going to set the record straight.
Yes.
About his legacy.
Exactly. The girls recognize him, and they're like, "Oh, you're Winnie's boyfriend." And Gilbert says no, and then promises, yeah. Gilbert apologizes to the girls. They forgive him, but Becca's keeping Book. And then as the girls walk down the street and the camera pans away, they start doing the witch's walk until they break out into laughter, wondering what they're doing. A crow is following them overhead. Then, after the credits, we see Cobweb, the cat, jumping around the shop and landing on a shelf next to a box that says BF Candle number 2.
Ooh. You gotta have a post-credit scene in 2022.
Well, I do not hope that that means, and I will say it again, I do not hope that that means we're getting Hocus Pocus 3, because this felt very final. This felt full circle. And I loved that about it. I was not expecting this ending. I was not expecting to cry. I don't even cry in the original. A third would cheapen it. I liked seeing the softer side of Winnie, knowing that she does really ultimately love her sisters more than anything else. That was really sweet. Bette has said, "I'd love to do a franchise, especially a character I love playing. If there was a third one, of course I'd sign on, but I don't know how." That's nice, but again, please no. Please no. Also, a fun little note, supposedly a remake, so not a sequel, but a remake was initially considered. Kenny Ortega, the director of the original, admitted that a sequel would be better. He said, quote, "I think it would be so much more fun to bring the ladies back. They're all still vital and in their prime and capable of doing so much that it would be great to see Bette, Kathy, and Sarah come back together." And that's important for a couple reasons. First, yes, a sequel is better than a remake. But yes, these women are now 30 years older than they were from the original, but still fully capable of working. Bette was 48 in the original. That's already too old by Hollywood standards. Hollywood standards. And especially now. So I'm glad they were like, screw that, we're bringing the originals back. I wouldn't have accepted anything else. Do you have any final thoughts?
Just, I feel like Gilbert and his journey through this movie were kind of a metaphor for the movie itself. Where he is just like a Sanderson sisters super fan who wants nothing more in the entire world than for them to come back. And then at the end is like, maybe that wasn't such a good idea.
Okay, I was really hoping for something insightful, but it was just another dig.
I had to get one last one. Don't worry, I've got some insight coming.
Okay. What is your jump score?
Oh, we're doing scores?
Yeah, isn't that what we do now?
Well, no, but I just mean for this movie.
Oh, yeah, we're doing scores.
0.
Yes.
Wait, you gave it a 0? You jumped.
I know, but it wasn't like a real jump to me. It wasn't. It just doesn't count.
Your methodology is wildly inconsistent.
Okay, fine. 1. I'll give it a 1.
No. Don't change it. Have some spine.
What is your nightlight?
-7. This makes me want to sleep with less lights.
Yeah, 0. What about your horror buff score?
3. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to talk about it a little bit. You know, nothing against the very talented people who made it. I'm not saying it's a terrible movie. But the problem with remakes and reboots and everything is the more money and resources that get spent on remaking and rebooting things, the less money in budgets is allocated to original projects. And I know that, like, you know, we love Hocus Pocus and we loved Harry Potter and we loved, you know, Chronicles of Narnia, whatever. When these things first came out, like we loved that magical feeling of getting pulled into that magical world. But like, we're not going to find that feeling by revisiting Hocus Pocus. We're going to find it in the next Hocus Pocus. We don't know what that is yet. And every time we spend money and time making a movie like this, there's another original project that's passed up. Everything in Hollywood right now, I'm sorry, I'm a little on my soapbox, but just everything in Hollywood right now, all of our leading actors, it's older than it's ever been. Everything is just safe. You know, nobody's taking chances on movies. Nobody's putting forward anything original because you can make Hocus Pocus 2 for half the budget and you can get tons of money from it and people will love it. And again, I'm not getting on people for enjoying that. I want people to enjoy what they enjoy, and if it makes you happy, that's great. But at the end of the day, what made Hocus Pocus so magical the first time, what made Harry Potter so magical the first time, was we didn't know what we were getting into and we got to discover that world. And there's just you're not going to get that from going back there. The more of these we get, the less of those we get, and it bums me out.
At least with regard to, you know, making a remake or a sequel and everyone will love it. That's very often not the case when they're bringing things back from our childhood or our younger days. People are very critical of remakes, and that is what's frustrating for me.
Let me just clarify. When I say people will love it, I don't mean everybody's gonna be like, oh, that's a great movie, but like, everyone's gonna see it. They're gonna make the money. Honestly, most movie executives don't care if people like a movie as long as they pay to see it. Mm-hmm. And this movie made them money. You know, all these movies make them money.
Yeah. As far as my train of thought, I hate when everyone begs for something and then just hates on it.
Yeah. Well,
it's really annoying to me.
That's Twitter.
And I just think just have an open mind for 1 second. And was this movie perfect? No, but Hocus Pocus isn't perfect. Hocus Pocus is cheesy. It was never meant to be what it became. It only became that. It's like a cult following. And the way that works is it was rediscovered and then championed by sad millennials, which is what we all are. We're just sad, looking to rework our childhood. And thanks to Disney and Freeform for playing it every single year, so we all became obsessed with it.
It came out in theaters in July and was a massive flop. Actually, the original. It
didn't even come out near Halloween. That's stupid. At least put it out in October. So like, they obviously had no faith in it. They didn't even care. But so just watch it and appreciate how cheesy it is, and just move past the corny jokes that don't work anymore, like the cowabungas and whatnot, and just appreciate Bette Midler's monologue at the end, okay? And give her an award.
So just to be clear, since I wasn't begging for this, I'm allowed to criticize it, right? Okay, just want to make sure. Because I did a lot of that.
was not begging for this, and I'm allowed to criticize it. And turns out I loved it.
And that's probably why you loved it, because you didn't have sky-high expectations.
Exactly, I had no expectations. Yeah. Okay, so Scaredy Cat score is a 0, because there was no scares.
Obvi.
Neophyte, I'm giving it an 8. Without shame.
All right. Hey, that's on you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I will probably skip the rewatch next Halloween, but you can rewatch it every year.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I don't know if I'll rewatch it every year. It doesn't have that place in my heart like Hocus Pocus does, because again, came out when I was young, and it's like a childhood thing, and there's memories attached to it. I don't have the same memories attached to this.
You say that now, but I bet next Halloween you watch the first Hocus Pocus and you go, I could watch the second one again.
Might as well. I'm here.
And then it'll become a yearly tradition, because that's what you're going to do every year.
That's how I roll.
Yeah.
Our next movie is Scream 2.
First sequel, baby.
I'm mildly afraid. And I do think I know who the killer is, because it's old.
Who do you think the killer is?
The mom.
Whose mom?
The boyfriend's mom.
Okay. We'll see.
The dead boyfriend from the first one's mom.
I will say that you have no reason to be scared. It's not a scary movie. Do you remember the first Scream? You weren't scared, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy it. It's not as good a movie as the first one. I honestly think of the original trilogy, it's probably my least favorite, but it's by no means bad. It's fine. You don't be scared. Don't work yourself up for this one.
Yeah, no, I'm not worked up. I said mildly.
So what do we have for the rest of October after that?
After that is The Witch.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
That I am absolutely not okay with.
Yeah, that one's going to be traumatizing, and we're going to need to use subtitles. We usually do anyway, but like you will not be able to understand this movie without subtitles.
Oh, God, okay. And also Halloween, the OG.
OG.
Yeah, which I am excited about and also afraid about.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
So yeah, that's weekly episodes for the rest of the month.
Yep, even if I sound like this.
Even so. Thanks for listening to Go a Little Mad. Please be sure to follow or subscribe to us on your favorite pod platform and like us on Instagram and Facebook at Go a Little Mad Pod. Visit goalittlemadpod.com to continue the conversation about each episode, and you can help us spread the word with a quick review and a 5-star rating, or grab some merch from our TeePublic site. Your sharing makes all the difference.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.